Greetings, dear listeners. You're listening to Money and Me, and I'm your host, Abhiruk Bhattacharyya. And today we have a very, very special guest on our show. We have the head of banking and payments from none other than Kraken Digital Exchange. And Max here has got some amazing stuff to share with us. How are you doing today, Max?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Abhiruk. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here. And great times despite what's going on in the world with COVID for crypto. It's good times.
Right. Okay, speaking of recent developments, there have been some big news recently in the payments industry. Payment giants like PayPal, MasterCard, and Visa are now tying up, with various crypto exchanges. They're entering the crypto market. They're offering, crypto credit rewards, something that, we couldn't have envisioned before. Gemini Exchange and MasterCard recently announced such an offer. So my question is twofold. Do you think A, will this move be beneficial for greater crypto adoption? And B, is Kraken considering such a partnership with a payments company to integrate a crypto reward system?
Yeah. I mean, two very great questions. Maybe let me start with question number B. Right, whether or not Kraken is considering such a partnership with a payments company. I mean, obviously, I cannot disclose anything in detail, right, about all the conversations that we're having and the things that might happen or might not happen. I hope you understand that. But, to answer the first question of whether or not this move will be beneficial for a greater crypto adoption, absolutely, right? Whether it is PayPal or Revolut or any other payment company, bank out there who offers their clients some form of crypto related product and service, these all help to drive the adoption. These all help to increase the awareness in the space and about the space. These are very, very beneficial. And the way we at Kraken have always handled it, we prefer to work with people rather than against them. That means we prefer to work with, let's call it, traditional financial institutions, with payment companies, with wallets, with banks together, rather than against them. We see us as part of a wider, bigger ecosystem. And every one of these partnerships, be it with us or with some of our dear competitors, you mentioned Gemini and others, is beneficial for all of us because they all help to drive the adoption and the interest in the space.
Right, Max. But then don't you think that traditional financial companies entering the picture, they're somehow going to take away the essence of crypto that we have come to associate, with, maybe more freedom, maybe more transparency? Do you think there's a chance that this might be taken away?
It's a very good point. And that's definitely something a lot of people are, worried about. The way I see it, though, the intrusive values and underlying, foundations of crypto, of decentralization, giving power back to the people, financial worldwide total inclusion, these are all values that cannot be really taken away, right? So if you ask me whether or not it will be a shock or a risk to Bitcoin when PayPal offers some deposit or withdrawal functionality, no, it's not going to be an issue. For that, the movement is too big and the values and underlying philosophies are too strong. I see it more that more and more players from, let's call it, the traditional financial space, getting pressure by their clients, by their shareholders and investors to get actively into the space, because we've seen insane growth over the last 10 years actually, but especially in the last year. That it's, in order to survive, those financial institutions have to adopt, they have to innovate, right? And this is just one part of it.
So as you mentioned, last year has seen unprecedented growth in crypto, especially for Bitcoin and right now Ether. But with this growth, a lot of attention is now drawn by world governments who are trying to regulate it and in some cases ban it. Yeah. So one good alternative to, safer alternative to cryptos has been CBDCs, which are centrally banked digital currencies. So can you tell us the chief difference between crypto and CBDCs? And do you personally believe in the growth of CBDCs?
Yeah, I mean, from on the first glance, they might look quite similar, traditional cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and CBDCs. However, if you look a little bit deeper, there's some significant differences, right? Bitcoin was founded on, values like individual sovereignty, decentralization, total inclusivity, whereas CBDCs are, well, it's in the name, it's centralized, public, issued by the government, controlled by the government or issuing body. It's only able to exist within the boundaries that are set by the government that is issuing this CBDC. I think we see in the broader crypto space, we see a multitude of different types of asset classes. And I think there's some potential for both traditional crypto assets and CBDCs to coexist together, to live together. I think they could be very efficient, especially when it comes to payments. But nevertheless, they cannot offer things like level of financial privacy or freedom that traditional crypto assets can offer. By the nature of their being, right? Being CBDCs, being centralized, issued by a government in the end, right? I mean, I understand governments, why they create these CBDCs. It's a way for them to innovate and get a foot in it. But, they're not going to be able to replace values and game changers such as Bitcoin.
But then right now, since crypto is undergoing a phase where it's becoming mainstream, rather mainstream adoption is going at the moment, there are recent reports which claim that hundreds of small US banks are now pushing to adopt Bitcoin, that they will allow users to trade Bitcoins right through their existing bank accounts. So they don't have to go through crypto exchanges.
Yeah.
So as a veteran tied in with the banking and payments sector, and now that you're so involved in crypto, what do you think are the possibilities that are going to come out of it? Yeah. Do you think it's going to be good for crypto, or do you see it as a trade-off?
No, I absolutely see it as something good. And you look at it, there are different levels of adoption and stages of adoption. And a lot of people, and not just in the US, in Europe as well, and other APAC as well, a lot of people have heard of crypto, but they don't know anything really about it. They might have read something in the news, but they don't understand the risks. They don't understand the underlying technology. They don't understand the benefits of it. So where do people tend to? They probably go to their banks that they have been long-lasting relationships with, sometimes for decades already, because they trust them still. There's still some people who trust their banks, interestingly enough. And, I feel that these banks, they can really help us serve as a gateway for, let's say, more later entrants into the game, later stage or later investors in the game, people that are now starting to become interested in it, to really make a first small step into it. And, what I see it as a first step. So people maybe have some limited buy or sell or investing functionality with banks. And then I guess a bigger portion of those people will start to see more the benefits, maybe do some more reading up it, and maybe at some point become a trader, a direct investor themselves via a player like Kraken, for instance. So I absolutely see it as something positive. It doesn't matter if it's, let's say, more a traditional old school type of bank or more of a neobank. They both serve as a gatekeeper, as an entrance, as a first step into this world.
So is it not ironic that centralized financial institutions might actually end up, kind of advocating the use of decentralized, concepts like Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. But I also see it as again, as a coexistence. Right. I mean, centralization by itself, it always depends on what you make out of it. Right? It's not inherently evil. We are Kraken, our centralized exchange, after all, right? So it's not inherently evil. And I see it, this wider space, crypto space, the crypto industry, the crypto movement will consist of multiple different players, some more centralized than others, some more regulated than others, and they all will help in driving the adoption.
Talking about crypto, the crypto future, the crypto world, we see much more wider applications of crypto going into the future. For example, the proof of work model is now being replaced gradually by the proof of stake model. And staking has become increasingly important in the crypto world. For example, crypto bank accounts now have open savings accounts where they allow users to invest their crypto and earn earnings from it. Now, I've read that Kraken already runs a service which allows users to stake their coins and earn fixed percentages from it. Recently, you allowed Cardano on May 4th, I believe, is when you allowed Cardano into the list. So tell us about the benefits and the risks associated with staking, and your personal opinion on whether staking might become a very possible alternative of earning income through crypto.
Yeah, staking itself really will have, my personal opinion, really big future. Why is that? Because more and more people are getting, fed up with the traditional financial systems. They go to their bank and they see they don't get anything. They don't get any interest rate. They get nothing of it, right? They might even have to pay negative interest rates in certain parts of the world. So they're pretty fed up with that, especially if you're old like me and you've experienced the good old days when you still got some interest rate on your standardized current account. So people look for alternatives, right? And if via staking, via utilizing this proof of stake model, we can promise and offer people a certain guaranteed return on their investment, then that's something that is already very interesting to a lot of people. We see it by the new user signups, by the amount staked, and will continue to become more and more interesting because, as I said, people want to have a space where their income passively grows. And for this, proof of stake can be one of the best solutions out there. Whether it's Cardano or any of the other assets that we at Kraken list and where we offer staking, that's up to the individual user to decide where they want to put their money on. But the underlying benefits will be definitely become more and more popular and more aware, right? The more people or the more players that offer this service, the more people will be aware of it, and the more people that will utilize it in the end.
Ever since the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for a payment system that is truly virtual, secure, and fast has been on the rise. Do you think crypto can sort of replace fiat in the coming years to come to become the most preferred choice for trading?
Yeah, it's I think it will not entirely replace the fiat system. And for this, let's not kid ourselves. The fiat system is way too omnipresent and strong across the globe. It will not replace it totally. It will, though, eat a significant chunk out of it. What I mean by this is it allows people to, transact, pay for goods and services in a decentralized way, in a way that doesn't has to run through a centralized government, right? Who says that only centralized governments can determine the means of exchange, right? Why don't the two of us can agree upon a certain means of exchange for various goods and services that we provide to each other? So I see definitely that it will eat a significant chunk out of it, especially in regions where you might have not a very sophisticated payment system, a payment system, that takes a long time or is just flat out corrupt and not reliable. For sure, it will not replace the fiat system in the near future. No, it will not. But it will eat in the coming year more and more significant chunk out of it.
Continents like Africa have been adopting crypto much faster than any other continent in the world, where countries there have high rates of inflation. Crypto like Bitcoin and Ether are actually acting as hedges against it. So what is your view towards that scenario?
Yeah, no, that's actually feeds kind of in what I just previously stated, right? Countries and regions where, well, even though globally the trust in the traditional financial system has diminished a lot, but you have countries where it's even worse, right? Where you just have no reliable government or financial institutions at all, and you need to look for alternatives, right? Whether it is for, as it said, like as a protection, so to say, against inflation and devaluation, or if it's as an actual means of payments, right? Crypto, especially in those markets, in certain African markets, Latin American markets, markets in general, where people have no reason to trust their centralized government at all, it can really, be a lifesaver. Let's call it how it is. It can save lives, right? By providing services that it provides.
So here's a fun question, Max. Can you tell us about how Kraken got its name?
I can, but I would rather defer to our CEO, Jesse, who likes to tell the story.
I'll get to interview him sometime in the future. Okay, let's move on to something that I believe you would love to talk about. Let's talk about NFTs, because those have become really popular. They're all over the internet. So help us get some sense on it. Why do you think this NFT craze is going on?
Yeah, I think it's just another step in the evolution, right? So if you look at the crypto landscape over the last 10 years, we always had hype cycles of different coins, different asset classes, and game changers that popped out of nowhere, right? I think NFT will be the next, or it's going to be one of the next big things for sure. Everything that needs to have some level of authentication proof digitalized will make use of that. We are to make use of this. You have certain industries in the world that provide various goods, services that are highly victims of counterfeiting. Like the retail industry, for instance, clothing industries, luxurious industries like watches and everything. And NFTs and the underlying technology can serve as a tool to prove authenticity of these assets. Of course, we see also, we see that people always like to collect things, and now in the digital age, we have traditionally have the issue of how can we prove that some digital collectible is really real and authentic? How can we do that? And with NFTs, we can now do that, right? Whether or not it's the NBA Top Shots or any of the other, various projects out there. This will be the next really big thing. Top Shots was, running on Flow. Flow has been one of we're one of the first to list Flow and to offer staking on Flow, right? So Kraken has always been on the forefront of NFTs, and we've always been on the forefront on promoting NFTs and seeing the use case for it, because we see the huge demand of it, right? And with NFTs now, finally, people have a way to, how to prove authentication and realness of certain goods and of certain goods, right? Of certain collectibles. And you also see, that of course now even the little girl with the burning house meme, she made some good money with that, right? That's kind of awesome to see, right? This is really, really awesome to see, and serves as another proof. Why wouldn't she monetize her being the one in the picture, right? Why not? NFTs is a great, fantastic way to really give people this power about their own possessions again, especially in a digital age where it's so easy to fake things and to counterfeit things, right?
So don't you think all these real world applications of blockchain are actually much more exciting than just the crypto coins? So when we think of crypto, we think of the assets, but then the real time applications are much more tremendous. So what do you think? So would you say that Ethereum blockchain has much more future than Bitcoin at the moment?
They both have different use cases, of course, right? They're both completely different assets, even though they're part of the same ecosystems, but both are vital for this ecosystem. Okay,
so according to what I've read, Kraken was closely associated with the Mt. Gox case, in which Kraken offered to settle the claims of creditors who had lost their assets over there. So Kraken was chosen because of its high security protocols and because it was legit, because there was a degree of trust that people placed on the exchange. So can you tell us about some of the security protocols Kraken takes, and how likely is it that a crypto exchange today can be hacked?
Okay, so let me start from the last part again. How likely is it that a crypto exchange gets hacked? Listen, I cannot speak for other crypto exchanges, right? Let's be real. It might be possible. Well, I don't know how many crypto exchanges out right now. All I can say, I can speak for Kraken. Kraken is being, the top ranked secure exchanges in the world. We always rank on top spots when it comes to security, reliability for that very reason, because from day one, we have focused on that. We have always tried to establish a reputation of being trustworthy. We always spent a lot of resources, time, and effort on making sure that we are the most secure exchange. That's why we didn't get hacked. And that's why, we have an international standing as being a trustworthy, secure, good player. And this helped us, of course, in the Mt. Gox case. It helps us also in our current, negotiations or talks with regulators or other banks or whatever it might be out there. We we have focused, as I said, from day one on security and reliability, right? We didn't care, we didn't focus on how many assets we list or anything like this for a long time, because we focused on security first. We will never compromise it. Everything else is a secondary priority. And this is something that we see has helped us, Kraken, but also helped, of course, consequentially the wider ecosystem. Because if we are secure and have a good reputation, some other players might get into the game and might be interested in investing or offering some sort of a crypto product, right? So everything we do has a direct impact on the wider industry as well.
But then overall, what are your views on crypto regulation? So the Biden administration has been planning on releasing a refurbished list of crypto regulations. Yeah. So what do you think would be some of the things you would like to see in those regulations?
Yeah, I think, listen, again, regulation is also not something inherently bad necessarily. It always depends on the details, right? It always depends on what is exactly written and the underlying motive of these regulations. This is not something that is unique to the US. That's a worldwide viewpoint. Kraken is one of the heavily regulated exchanges in the world. Be it our SPDI license in Wyoming, our licenses in Japan or Australia. We have never strayed away from regulation, but it needs to make sense. It needs to be, promoting innovation. It needs to be good for the ecosystem. It needs to be, pro-business and not con-business. It needs to be also ideally created within framework of open dialogue and respect, meaning that a regulatory body should sit down with the players of the industries and say, okay, what do you think of this? What can we do? Because we all want to have a safe, trustworthy environment. We don't want people to lose their money. We don't want people to get scammed, to lose all their life savings because of some, a-hole is trying to scam them out of money. So if a regulator comes and sits down with you and says, okay, let's create a framework together, then this is the perfect setup. You have an active, open discussion. However, if your regulator comes up with a pretty oppressive regime, a regime that, basically is pretty counterproductive to businesses and it's not really promoting businesses at all, then that's something, that doesn't really make a ton of sense.
So there are countries which have been banning cryptocurrency. So why do you think, what leads these or what pushes these countries or governments to ban cryptocurrencies?
Yeah. Of course, I can only make, assumptions and speculations on that, right? Me not being an advisor to any of these governments. But what I can tell you is that one reason might be that they fear for lack of power, right? For the very reasons you discussed earlier, crypto being inherently decentralized, promoting freedom, financial inclusion. These are all things that not every government out there is going along with necessarily. Let's call it that. And I think that a lot of governments that impose these bans on crypto have a risk of fearing for their absolute power, right? That they lose oversight over the monetary and financial system and conclusively will lose power at all, because if you don't control the financial system, you're not going to have any governmental power.
Right. So Max, talk to us about your journey into crypto. How did you stumble into this?
How did I stumble in? It's a good question. I think it was, 2014 when I was working my previous gig, and a colleague of mine just, I think it was at lunchtime, we just started talking about this new crypto stuff and Bitcoin. And I just wanted to eat. I just wanted my quiet. Yeah, I was not really receptive for that at all at that moment, not gonna lie. But then, it still stuck to my memory somehow. So I did some research later on, and then, I got really excited about it. And of course, 2014, there were not that many really great alternatives out there as there are now. So I I did some research and started investing and getting involved in the space to some extent. Yeah.
What would you say, what really attracted you to crypto?
Well, I think it was really those underlying values. The idea that power should be decentralized, that everyone should have access to the financial system, that governments or regulators should not be the only ones who determine the means of exchange. Why not? Why can we as the people not determine our own means of exchange? And this was really more this philosophical aspect that really attracted me and said like, oh, wow, this can be really something. This can be really a significant counterweight to the old traditional world. And when we see it, it's becoming exactly that, a counterweight to the traditional financial system.
The last question of this interview, also the most important one, is you guys are world leaders. You are one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world. So whichever direction you take, the rest of the crypto market has to follow it. So what are some of the most immediate targets you want to focus on? How do you want to expand?
Yeah, this is a very good question. And again, we're working on a lot of initiatives across the globe, various regions, various product features. So I cannot really go into detail because we would lose our strategic edge and advantage here, of course. So I'm not going to do that. But what I can say is that it's one of our missions, or our mission statement is you really to drive global financial inclusion. And this is something we will never stop. Meaning that we will always continue to work on ways, means, techniques to make it possible to have more people across the globe have access to this new world. Let's call it what it is, a new world. Because it is about so much more than just money. It's about too much more than just Van Lambo or celebrating the Dogecoin spike or whatever it is. It's so much more. And this is something that I can promise that Kraken will always continue to strive for and work for, that everyone in this world has access to this new world.
Right. Any closing comments, Max? Anything you want to tell our listeners?
Well, I think I can only invite people to really, people who might not be in the space yet, or might be still somewhat on the edge of investing or not, to do it, to do some reading, to not just trust one source, but it's for everything you do in life, but especially investment in crypto. Do your own research. It's absolutely key, right? So everyone's listening or watching this, do your own research. Don't trust only one source. Make your own mind out of stuff. And, don't be afraid. Take a leap and take your first little step on this crypto exchange, because every journey starts with the first small step.
That was very inspiring. Thank you, Max. Thank you so much for coming over here.
Thank you so much, Abhiruk. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.